Welcome to October football for the Philadelphia Eagles. A little bit of a chill in the air. It's warming up, but hey, fall is here. We're going to take it. The Eagles welcoming the New York Jets to Lincoln Financial Field for a 1 p.m. afternoon game in October. Welcome to the Kickoff Show presented by Axalta. Amy Campbell, Fran Duffy. The Eagles coming off of a little bit of a mini bye there. Win over the Packers on Thursday Night Football. They welcome the 0-3 New York Jets. Fran, a team that Philadelphia 10-0 all-time against the Jets, dating back to 1973. That is the most wins by a current team against any opponent in the NFL. They're going to look to continue that today against a Jets team with a lot of key players out as well, building that momentum from that Thursday Night Football win.
I love that stat, and actually one of two teams that the Eagles have never lost to in the regular season, the Houston Texans being the other. But to me, going into this game, yeah, the New York Jets, they're 0-3 coming into this matchup. But remember, they're coming off a bye week themselves. They've actually had the extra week to be able to prepare for this game. They're also bringing in two new schemes, Adam Gase on offense, Greg Williams on defense, new players being mixed and matched. So don't necessarily take that 0-3 record and say, oh, this is going to be a gimme game. Eagles just have to show up. I can go down the list of quarterbacks, backup quarterbacks, because Luke Falk is getting the start for New York, that have come in and beaten the Eagles. We all remember Joe Webb in 2010 with the Minnesota Vikings, Stephen McGee the year after with the Dallas Cowboys. You don't want to go to sleep here against an inferior opponent. Come in, take care of business. This is one of those games for the Eagles. You can't just show up. You've got to be able to come in and take care of what you do well, because the other team gets paid too.
Yeah, of course. And look, the Eagles know that every week they have the target on their back. New York Jets, nothing is changing. We're going to head out to Lincoln Financial and watch the birds warm up as the Eagles get ready to face off against New York as they take the field. There you go, Kamu Grugier-Hill, as he gets better and better after that injury, Fran.
Yeah, and it was great to see Kamu back on the field last week. Not
Yeah.
a full-time player, as he's just still working back from that injury, but working in with guys like Nigel Bradham and with Zach Brown. Great to see Kamu back on the field, and certainly on special teams as well. It was great to have him back in that linebacking core, because it's a huge jump. We said it last week going into the show. He had an outstanding summer before his injury. So Kamu, his presence as he becomes more and more of a full-time player, will be big for this defense.
All right, and as we take a look at the defensive starters here, once again, Malcolm Jenkins in the big photo there with some injuries to the cornerback position, a lot of shuffling around there. How key is Malcolm in this one, just his ability to do it all for this team?
Oh, he's so important. I mean, he's what you call a glue guy on a defense, because he can fill in so many different holes depending on what you need on any given game. If you need him to play single high, down in the box as a run defender, over the slot, he could do so much for you. He could play out wide. He's got that cornerback background. So having a guy like Malcolm Jenkins on the field is just so important for this entire Eagles defense. He helps everybody, not just the corners, but the linebackers as well.
All right, and Larry, we were just taking a look at Fletcher Cox here. We have Nigel Bradham, who made really the game-sealing interception last week. This linebacker core heading into the season, a lot of question marks, a lot of injuries. Now you've got Bradham back in the fold. You mentioned Grugier-Hill continuing to get healthy and contribute. It's become a really strong unit in such a short time after a lot of question marks at the beginning of the season.
Yeah, when you have a defense the way that the Eagles play, where the defensive line, they're just asked to attack upfield, all the linebackers have to do is just play off that, and it really makes things easier for those guys at that level. You've seen players in this scheme, going back to Jim Schwartz when he was the defensive coordinator in Tennessee, and Keith Bullock is lining up and making plays sideline to sideline. They can rack up tackles because the defensive line is just so disruptive, and that's what benefits guys like Nigel Bradham, Kamu, Zach Brown, all the rest. The defensive line help create things for the linebackers.
Of course, I know we had a quick look at the offensive line there. A lot of guys in the trenches. To me, that's always the best group to watch warm up, because the energy is through the roof when you're watching these guys, especially, those guys in the trenches, especially on the defensive line. Always really feeling the energy of that stadium. I feel like they really bring it. Okay, and here we are back to the offensive line, and we're going to take a look at the offensive starters. But really, when we talk about that line, just continuing to take a huge step forward, really establishing their dominance and gelling well together against a solid Packers defense. And tonight they look to take another step forward.
The offensive line was a huge, huge reason for their success last Thursday night against Green Bay. When you talk about what they did, moving people against their will in the run game, Isaac Seumalo and Jason Kelsey, Brandon Brooks, Lane Johnson, the whole group, everybody was just outstanding up front. So having all those guys back and continuing to build on that continuity, they each get better and better with every single year. It's so fun watching that group work. And like I said, they were a huge part of why they were able to beat a very good Green Bay Packers team, which, by the way, no sacks against Carson Wentz. I think it was one quarterback hit on him all night long. We talked so much about that Green Bay defense leading up to that game. So a huge performance from that line.
Yeah, it was like you really just saw things click for them when you talk about, the run game and protecting Carson Wentz and asserting their will and their dominance on the opponent. Really a good sign there in that one for Game 4. Here we have Carson Wentz himself, QB1. He continues to grow in his maturity and just his ability to make decisions. He talked about it this week in practice. He continues to feel more comfortable on first and second down, taking the check down, as opposed to feeling like he needs to win going over the top every single time. To me, that spoke volumes about his maturity.
Yeah, I mean, he was named Pro Football Focus's #1 quarterback in the entire NFL through the first quarter of the season. I think a big part of that is because of his willingness not just to attack downfield, he's still aggressive, but also understanding to take what the defense is giving you. And if it's second and long, take that check down. Give yourself a more manageable third down. And that's why the Eagles are so good on third down through the first 4 games. A big part of that is Carson Wentz. I know the production in terms of the touchdowns and the yards isn't always where fans can point to and say, oh, he's Patrick Mahomes, but he's playing the quarterback position at a very, very high level and has put the Eagles, look, they are 2 drops away. In reality, and it's more to this, they're 2 drops away from being 4-0 at the end of the day. A lot of that is because of Carson Wentz.
Look, those little moments always have big impact when it comes to the NFL. It's always those little tiny things that can really translate here as the team is breaking it down. Man, this is like the time when I always wish that I could just be in the middle of that and just, like smell the grass, smell the sweat, like feel the energy.
I was going to say, you can smell a little bit more than the grass when you're out in the middle of those things.
Yeah, these guys are live. These guys are ready to go as they head back into the stadium. We count down to kickoff. I do want to touch on the cornerback situation a little bit. We know that the Eagles have had some injuries to that unit. What should people be looking for today when it comes to that unit? When they're just the depth has been kind of churning over the last week or 2.
Yeah, the 2 big names to keep an eye on are certainly Craig James, who came up with the big play at the end of the game last week against Green Bay, just his 3rd defensive snap in Eagles green. So certainly a guy you want to watch. And then also the team brought back Orlando Scandrick. He was with the team all summer long through training camp. A veteran, has been in this league for a long time. A lot of starts under his belt, particularly here in the NFC East. We're a long-time Dallas Cowboy, but he's got that inside-out versatility. Look for him in the slot today as well.
And as we continue to break down and preview what some of the inside matchups are going to look like, we're going to head back over to Lincoln Financial and check in with Eagles insider Dave Spadaro for his key to the game. Dave, give us your key to this one, Eagles versus Jets.
My key to the game is one that I'm kind of using as an example for today and then for weeks to come. The Jets' main weapon offensively is going to be Le'Veon Bell, both as a running back and as a receiver. And I know he's struggled, and I know that the Jets have a backup quarterback, and I know that they've scored only a handful of points through 3 games. But for the Eagles' defense, trying to control a player with those kinds of skills this week might be a good example for them in weeks to come, with Dalvin Cook in Minnesota next week, with Ezekiel Elliott in Dallas the week after. So that is my key to the game, how the Eagles defense responds and contains Le'Veon Bell. Now, as far as a storyline, guys, we all felt how much urgency the Eagles had 10 days ago at Lambeau Field. I can't say that there's been that kind of emotion during the week. The storylines during the week, not quite as urgent, right? So do the Eagles come out and play that way and play down to the level of the competition today? I want to see this Eagles team rise to the occasion, defend their turf. They did not do it the last time the Eagles played at Lincoln Financial Field against the Detroit Lions. They struggled in week 1 against the Washington Redskins. And with 3 road games coming, today is a great time to make a stand in South Philadelphia, defend your turf, reestablish this as a home field advantage for the Philadelphia Eagles against an inferior opponent. Back to you at the NovaCare Complex.
I'm loving that plaid blazer there from Spuds. Look, he talked about the urgency. That's something Coach Doug Peterson talked about throughout the week, not ever underestimating an opponent, but coming out strong, starting strong, something that we have heard around these walls for a very long time. Bryn, what's your key to this one for the Eagles?
I think the big thing is just staying on schedule. When you look at this Eagles offense, Last week, they went 4 for 4 in the red zone officially. Really, if you count that Jordan Howard touchdown, which happened on the 20-yard line outside of the red zone by, I don't know, like 2 feet, you're 5 for 5 inside the red zone, which is huge. If you're able to win situational football, that goes a long way towards a victory. So not only that in the red zone, but the Eagles also #1 in the NFL right now on third down, and that comes from being really good on first and second down. We talked earlier about Carson Wentz and knowing when to take the check down. Those check downs on second down now result in a 3rd and 3, a 3rd and 4, a 3rd and 2 instead of 3rd and 8 or 3rd and 9. That allows you to be #1 in the NFL on third down. If the Eagles continue to win situational football here today, it'll go a long way towards another W.
Yeah, and for me, Mike, he kind of touching on you and what Dave had to say. Look, this is about the mental game and staying mentally locked in. The Eagles are facing an inferior opponent who has yet to get a win in the league, and they're going to be playing against a lot of backups, and they're staring down the barrel of a 3-game road trip. But as the Eagles always say around these walls, we want to go 1-0 this week. We are not looking ahead. And so does that mean that they can play disciplined, that they can avoid the penalties, that they can execute in the red zone and do all the things that mentally they preach doing? Also, what I want to see, friend, lots of points on the scoreboard. Let this be a statement win. Let's see a really strong, no questions asked W, 4 quarters of football, like Coach Doug Peterson always says.
Great teams take care of business against inferior teams. So if the Eagles are playing like a great team today, you'll see a big win.
All right, we're going to head back over to Lincoln Financial to hear the players to watch from the voice of the Eagles, Merrill Reese and Mike Quick. Merrill, how's it going over there?
Amy, it's a bit gray and nippy here at Lincoln Financial Field as those warm September days are gone and we get into the real serious part of the schedule. Mike, who are you eyeing today?
I'm going to watch Malcolm Jenkins. The New York Jets, you can't look past them, and many people think that this is a rollover game. But a guy like Malcolm Jenkins, he's a guy not only with what he does on the field, but in rallying the troops, keeping this team focused. You need that. You need that coach on the field, and Malcolm is that to get this team over the New York Jets.
Well, I am focusing on a guy who almost disappeared last week against the Green Bay Packers, and that would be number 13, Nelson Aguilar.
Good one.
Only had 1 target, no catches last week. Look for him to have at least 5 receptions today and maybe a long one. We'll see what happens. All right, Amy, back to you.
Okay, thank you, Merrill. And of course, Merrill making a prediction there for Nelson Aguilar, 5+ receptions. I don't know how you ever know who's going to be the guy for the Eagles. Every week it's different as the coaches kind of have their game plan, but they always keep things fluid of who's going to be, the hot, I would say hot hand in terms of receptions.
Yeah, exactly. And I think Mike is right on point there with the use of Malcolm Jenkins as his player to watch, because you really one matchup to watch in this game, Malcolm Jenkins versus the slot receiver, Jamison Crowder. That's a matchup we've seen over the years when Crowder was in Washington. Jamison Crowder, a player that we highlighted this week on Eagles game plan, with a receiving core that's down a couple bodies. He's been their most reliable target. So a matchup to watch, certainly Malcolm Jenkins versus Jamison Crowder when those two are matched up.
All right, and when we come back later, we will see the team taking the field. When we come back, Mike Quick goes one-on-one with Eagles backup quarterback Josh McCown in a Pond Lahaki interview. We do have to end our social media stream, so if you're watching us on social, head on over to the Eagles app or PhiladelphiaEagles.com. We've got the whole rest of the show leading up to kickoff. And if you're already there, hang out with us. We'll be back on the other side of this commercial break.